Golden Week has begun. There was a lot of in-ring action this past week. New Japan was back on tour with title changes, lineup changes, and stipulations added to upcoming shows. We're going to talk about all those things. Look ahead to Wrestling Dontaku, which should be a very interesting weekend of action. We'll look back on a critical night in Stardom history, which produced one of the best wrestling shows in years. Let's get right to it. With Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone. Mokuyobi desu. It is Thursday, and we are here with Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. Been a very busy week. And, of course, like I mentioned in the intro, Golden Week. So almost all promotions are working a heavy schedule right now, taking advantage of the holidays, Jeremy. So there's just a ton of wrestling to talk about. We had a couple of things like Hizen no Kuni. We had Redzone. And looking ahead to a pretty huge weekend here with Wrestling Dontaku. I am expecting action and angles. So how are you feeling coming off what has been a hectic 7 days since we last talked? In-ring action, no more bullcrap on the side, no more gossip. In-ring wrestling.
We were talking before we ever got started about the things that have been going on watching wrestling and maintaining our lives and this show and whatever. And all of a sudden, through the entirety of the intro, I had Radiohead, "You Do It to Yourself," playing in my head. So I'm a little bit of an empty void because of that. Thank you, Stephen. But you know, I think we're heading towards a really eventful weekend with some really crazy stuff planned. We had 4 shows to watch, but unfortunately there was really only 2 shows worth of content between those 4 shows. So we had a lot to parse and we had a lot to watch. There were some real gems in what we watched in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
But I'm also really excited for the month of May.
I want to say hello to the folks who've joined us right off the bat. Colin is here. Jeremy is here. Fernando's here. So I'm glad you guys are with us, and anybody else.
I got a question from Jeremy that I'm going to hit up you later on.
Okay.
That I got locked in the chamber.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And the other thing for me is I think I'm holding up very well. We're going to talk about what happened to me over the weekend, but I'm holding up quite well. I'm also on day 4 of a 5-day juice cleanse. So
why?
I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry.
Why do you do this before a trip?
Well, because I'm doing this trip. I want to slim down. I want to, I want to get all that kind of, I want to reset my cravings. I want to reset my body a little bit before I go on this long trip.
A 20-hour plane flight won't do that?
It's only 13 hours. Thank you very little. But yeah, it'll reset you. Everybody eats like crap in the airport, though, right? I need to be healthy. I need to like health myself up here. Okay. I'm gonna be doing a lot of walking, a lot of standing, a lot of moving around while I'm in Japan. So I wanted to get ready for that.
Good for being mindful, Stephen. But
so hungry.
I'm so hungry. Radiohead, you do it to yourself.
It's a lot of self-flagellation in the last week, so we'll get to all that. All right, let's talk some wrestling here.
Sure.
I mentioned Golden Week. Now people might be curious what exactly is Golden Week, so I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time on this, but these are the holidays that make up Golden Week, Jeremy. It all begins on April 29th, so it started a couple days ago with Showa Day, SHOWA, Showa Day, which is a day to reflect on Emperor Hirohito's reign. Now, Emperor Hirohito ruled from 1926 all the way until the late 80s. I believe it was like 1989 or something when he passed away. So Hirohito's reign saw Imperial Japan, war with China, World War II, the rebuild after, the growth of Japan into an economic juggernaut with the electronics and the car industry, and then also into more of a democratic government because it was totalitarianism at the very beginning of it. So they created this holiday. It's called Showa Day. It's not necessarily in celebration of all that, but it's time to just reflect on all the changes that have taken place in the nation of Japan over that reign. So that's the 29th. And then after that, you move over to May 3rd. So there's a couple of days in between there. And then May 3rd is Constitution Memorial Day. So the current Constitution was put into effect in 1947, and that is celebrated on May 3rd. And what better way to celebrate the creation of a constitution than with a bloody, violent steel cage match?
Well, Stephen, we don't need to get political here, but most major political regimes have probably involved bloody steel cages.
Well, May 4th is Greenery Day, and that is to celebrate nature. After all, summer is coming. We've moved past the sakura blossoms, and we're headed toward the warm weather, so Greenery Day. And then May 5th is Children's Day. You're celebrating children and the joy they bring to life.
Wow, they're really there's an umbrella here and there.
Isn't it really? But that's what Golden Week is. Wow. And it's just this run of holidays, and everybody's off. Everybody's moving around and traveling. And if you look at prices for flights and hotels, you can see exactly where everybody is traveling.
So you're going to be there for a span of that, huh?
We are arriving on Children's Day. So we leave the 4th, but because of the way the time difference works, we leave on the 4th and arrive on the 5th. So we're getting there on the tail end of all this. So Monday, last day, and then everybody's back to work for the other 4 days. And we figured that would be a good time to show up. And as everybody else is going back to work and going about their business, that's when we can slide in and do the touristy stuff. So
okay, well, we are going to have sparse communication for the next couple of weeks, but
you never know.
Sayonara.
I will be off the next couple of weeks. You will have guests here, but the next 2 episodes will be. I'll be off on my vacation.
My part of the do it to myself is that I know I have to get a co-host. I wasn't paying complete attention to what weeks those were, and I found out it was next week and the week after. I was like, I pretty much think I got this covered, guys.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
Sometimes, I fly by the seat of my pants on this show, but you probably figured that out by now.
The week began with Redzone in Hiroshima. Why don't we get right to this stuff, Jeremy? Because, like I said, we spent last week talking about some very unpleasant things outside of the ring, and then they got back in the ring in Hiroshima. And Jeremy, I thought this was one of the better shows we have seen this year. And
it honestly felt like they had something to prove. They wanted to change the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's make the conversation about what we do in the ring.
I'm not trying to say that we were pressuring on anything, but we mentioned that Tanahashi needs to get hold of his locker room a little bit. And you mentioned that it was almost like someone had a meeting and just said, hey, let's let our wrestling speak again instead of all this other stuff, because this was a strong night of wrestling right here. My favorite show of the year, really, outside of one of the majors. Like New Beginning was fabulous and all that. And, Wrestle Kingdom and Dynasty, I had a really good time at. But this was really
showing up. It's the juniors' time, like in this company right now. They're doing a lot of heavy lifting.
So the show was at the Sun Plaza Hall in Hiroshima. This was 3,018 people, about 1,000 more than last time. Now, of course, there are some special circumstances going on, weren't there? This is the adopted hometown, the second hometown of Tetsuya Naito, and his final appearance there as a contracted New Japan wrestler. We know better than to say never when you talk about pro wrestling and retirements and returns, but for now, anyway, this was the last run for Naito in Sun Plaza, and it turned into a very emotional night at that. Almost 1,000 more, like I said, than the last time they were at Sun Plaza Hall in Hiroshima. So a lot of people turned up to say farewell to Naito. And, of course, the baseball team in Hiroshima, the Carp, will play Naito's music and wear LIJ shirts under their jerseys. So there's a lot of connective tissue there. And of course, Sly, the mascot for the Hiroshima Carp, was in attendance here for this one. So Naito is an honorary mascot in his own way. So the show started with Katsuyori Murashima and Daiki Nagai. We had the Young Lions. Nagai seems to be getting closer and closer to Murashima, doesn't he? They're starting to expand his moveset a little bit. You know how Young Lions start off with chain wrestling, body slam, Boston Crab, drop kick. That's about it. Mm-hmm. And but he's starting to incorporate more things. Murashima's already a little bit ahead of him, and the guy has been taking advantage of the opportunities he's getting because of Shomakato and Yasuda's injuries. He's gotten a few more of these matches than I think he would have if everybody were still healthy. And I think he's coming along nicely. We already know he's already one of the best promos in the whole company.
I felt like the Murashima winning pretty clean, close to the 10-minute mark. kind of caught me off guard. It's like they're really starting to. I feel like we're in the end stage of some of these young Lion guys where it's like you're starting to give them an identity and a win-loss behavior. It's like Nagai is getting a little more pissed off, a little more frustrated that he's not coming out on top of these. Murashima, a little more confident, like just kind of chest pounding, feels a little more like there's a little more oomph and a little more like, yeah, that's right. I'm coming out there. You're just seeing like inches of their personality, and that's what these all are. It's just like it's seasoning for their personality and what little bits of personality they feel comfortable like being authentic of themselves in the ring, because there's a lot of authenticity of these young Lions before they get a character, and they kind of develop what their mannerisms are as to what feels authentic, because when you're taking a lot of bumps in the ring, you don't want to do stuff that doesn't feel authentic. You need to lean right into what those next little bits of your character. So what
Jeremy,
else you got about that one?
Jeremy is asking how many young Lions do they have right now? And currently in the ring in Japan, they have 4.
Right.
There's Yasuda, who's just back from injury, Shomakato, who is injured right now and is not currently wrestling, and then these two, Nagai and Murashima. Murashima is the closest to going on his excursion. He's not there yet. You can kind of see as they begin to expand what they do in the ring, like you mentioned, show a little bit more personality.
Like a 1A and 1B with Murashima and Shoma, and then Daiki Nagai and the other guy are like 2A, 2B. Yeah.
They debuted later than Murashima and Kato did, but unfortunately Kato's had those injuries. So Murashima, I would say, is the closest to actually going anywhere, but he's not quite there yet. There are 2 others that are close to coming back. Now there's Oscar Loibe, Yuto Nakashima. They have been in Europe and Great Britain for the better part of a year. They have recently moved over to Tamashi and are back in Oceania, wrestling in Australia, New Zealand, for that end of it. Bad Luck File A's branch of the promotion, getting closer to coming back to Japan and ending their excursion and becoming part of the regular roster. So, yeah, and Jeremy says he's only seen these 2. Yasuda seems snake bit. Flat out. He's actually been there longer, I think, than all of them, perhaps, but he just keeps getting hurt. Persistence is there. His father was a pro wrestler. He just wants to make it, and so his persistence is impressive, but he keeps getting hurt, and Kato's injured as well. So hopefully they will be back soon. Maria is here too. Maria Graciela Sayas, glad you're here. Thank you. And that was the opener there. So that's a state of the young Lions at the moment. We were getting closer to seeing what was it? Youngblood? Is that the name of their team for
Loibe and Nakashima? Yeah, they were in Tamashi a couple of nights ago, doing some wrestling there. So they're inching their way back to Japan. A couple of tours here or there.
The first match on the main show there in Hiroshima was Tanahashi, Yano, Wato, Yo, and Bolton in a 10-man tag against TMDK. And it was the first indication we were in for a big night because the crowd was into everything. The crowd was into this right away. Jackson and Bolton stuff was good, especially in with each other. I like to see these guys in a one-on-one match because I think Hartley Jackson and Oleg Bolton really work well together. And Bolton ended up winning with the Kamikaze. Now, I mentioned there were a couple of other shows this week that we're not going to get into because they were all basically preview tag house show stuff. But Bolton's leg seems to have gone a little bad. His right leg is now, by the end of the tour, was heavily taped up, and he wasn't doing the kamikaze, especially not with Hartley Jackson right there. And so it looked more like his hamstring. And he did manage later in the tour, not on this show, but later on, he gave Jackson a German using just the one leg. I mean, just how strong this man is. Pretty much just, if you watch, he just posts on the one leg, and the other one is he's staying off of. I think this might be a thing, Jeremy, where he might have a hammy that's being a problem. And if he can grit his way through Dontaku, he has Super Juniors to heal up. Because
this guy reminds me of like an economy-sized Batista,
And so he's a tough man. And but yeah, that's unfortunate. It looks like he might have gotten hurt a little bit somewhere in here. But he ended up winning this match with the Kamikaze most of the part. He's been going over, and Hartley Jackson's been taking most of the pinfalls for TMDK. But he's terrific. I'm a big fan of Jackson. But I would like to see he and Bolton one-on-one when they're both healthy, because I think that could be a terrific match.
I have some thoughts about TMDK, but I think there are more consequential matches that we kind of have to tackle before we get to that.
Maria liked this one. She said it was a great match, and she loves Tanahashi. Well, Tanahashi is feeling pretty motivated these days, and we're going to talk about that as we get
feeling himself a little bit, isn't he?
I think the Takeshita match kind of gave him a little bit of juice there because he knows he knew how good that one was. He knew how good that one was. He said, I still got a little bit of this left in me.
Like, right. I think at this point, he kind of feels like, you know, at this pace, I can make it through the year, and these matches can be all right. There's a bravado to that, you know, like, let's see how you're doing in 3 months from now, because, you know, Daniel could have talked about at the end of that last 6 months that he had, like, that was a real tough period of life. And, you know, Tanahashi's got a lot of this play right now. Let's just see where he's at.
He set himself up for success at Dontaku, but we'll get to all that. Yeah. Next, we had House of Torture and the War Dogs, first of 2 clashes with these guys. And so this was Sho and Kanemaru beating Connors and Ishimori pretty quick. Just basic House of Torture shenanigans. Spit whiskey in Connors' face, rolled him up, pinned him. They need to do this, though, because on paper, House of Torture seemed like such underdogs going into this dog pound match that I think they needed to have House of Torture get the best of War Dogs leading up to it, because it just doesn't seem like they have much of a chance in a dog pound match against these guys. So they need to build up House of Torture as a threat to War Dogs, and this was part of it.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a long conversation in the preview section about that dog pound cage match and what they have planned on there. I think it's interesting that Clark Connors got the win in this one over Kanemaru, and we'll touch back on that in a little bit.
The other way around, Kanemaru beat him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kanemaru beat him, but Clark Connors was involved in the loss. Is what I'm kind of getting at. Yeah.
After this, we had El Desperado, Phantasmo, and Taguchi against Akira, Jacob Austin Young, and Templario from the United Empire. Templario is great. This was a fun match, and it only went 8 minutes 47 seconds, but had a lot of high energy. Phantasmo beat Jacob Austin Young after a UFO. Young is the designated pin taker for
yes,
the United Empire these days. He's paying his dues.
That hierarchy has shifted, Steven.
Yeah, I mean, that used to be Callum Newman's job. And there it is. Just like taking the falls for TMDK used to be Kosei Fujita's gig, but now we're seeing a different thing.
I'm not going to go deep into last week, but I think it is pretty funny that Templario got here just hanging out, doing his job, basically taking the role that TJP had in United Empire, when TJP is complaining about a completely other guy that had a completely different other role in the faction. But hey, here we are. Templario providing a ton of entertainment for us.
Yeah, he's a really good wrestler, and he was enjoying his run in Japan. We're going to talk about what he did differently once he gets to his match with El Desperado. So after that, we had a tag team match between LIJ and this new group, this Hantai Just 4 Guys alliance. We had
a weird tag team for me.
Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji. That's not the weird one. The weird one is Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura. So this is really, really good. Really good match here. Shingo was getting the best of Umino pretty frequently going into Dontaku this whole week. This has been Shingo mostly getting the offense in on Umino, and Umino taking beatings, including a couple of beatdowns after the match. So if you want to know which way the wind is blowing toward that singles match, that's going to tell you a lot. Uemura and Tsuji are absolutely clicking. This had intensity, and it feels like it has real steam on it. It's 2 very different things because they're portraying Shota and Shingo as a real grudge thing, just don't like each other, can't stand the sight of one another. Whereas Uemura and Tsuji are 2 guys who really respect each other and want to be that half step ahead. Yeah, I like you. I think you're terrific. Boy, I sure can't lose to you.
They're going to settle both in the ring, right? But one is being built outside of the ring, and one is being built purely on like who's better inside the ring. They're completely 2 different builds, and then you got both of these guys like in tags with each other, and all of a sudden you have like this huge chaos in between, right? Mm-hmm. Like this dichotomy. Just watching Shota and Yuya, and Shota's got the black hair now. It's starting to really start to come in, and it's just he's just very like looks very much like a young lion right now, like with the hair, just very, very basic. But they're both trying to be that top young guy in Hontai. Yeah. And they're both going at two completely different ways about it. And so they're on one end, and you have Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji, who are in this established faction that seems to be crumbling around them, and they're having two completely different reactions to it. Shingo is just angry about everything, and Yota Tsuji is holding on to that belt like it's his identity. And as long as he has that, like, he's fine. But if he loses that belt, you know what I mean?
So Shota is perturbed by Uemura because he's making a point of not looking at Uemura during his entrance, turning away from him, that type of thing, but not being aggressive toward him because, of course,
he doesn't understand why people like him, but he didn't like, why didn't you like me for the same thing?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, what you have is a self-proclaimed leader of Hontai in Shota Umino versus the guy who seems like the more natural Hontai leader eventually someday. And that's the story they're telling, is that people see Uemura as, oh, maybe this is the next Tanahashi. And Umino is like, what the hell? I've been saying I'm the next Tanahashi for a long time. What's the, you know, why not me?
Again? Really? You're doing this to me again?
Yeah. So we'll see what becomes of that. But it's
a very interesting weekend worth of shows, because either we're gonna see the trigger pulled on a lot of factions going sideways, or we're gonna be seeing more seeds planted. But there are things that are going to be happening, and it feels like they're going to be happening really soon.
The House of Torture build continued in the next match as Evil, Ren Narita, and Sonata defeated David Finlay, Drilla Maloney, and Gabe Kidd. By the way, the finish of that last match, I didn't even mention it. Shingo basically got a very quick pin after a lariat. The pumping bomber, just very quick things. They didn't really, it wasn't a burial of Shota in any way, shape, or form.
Pumping bomber as a finish more and more, man.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, it's not bad for a flash pin. You can buy that because he hits it hard enough that you would think, yeah, someone might be rattled for 3 seconds and not.
It might be what it finishes the Last of the Dragon. It might be getting harder for him to get the people up for that Last of the Dragon.
And he has a new one too. He has a different one. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but he's added something beyond Last of the Dragon. Another House of Torture finish here to get momentum. Sonata hit Maloney with a guitar after all the cheating, all the stuff. Connors was on commentary with Walker Stewart, and he jumped in, but he got beaten down too. So again, part of that whole thing of making House of Torture look like the bullies going into this and giving War Dogs something to overcome. Because I think when a lot of people heard this match announced, they were just like, seriously, House of Torture in this thing? But they need to make them look nasty, and they did.
Yeah, I mean, we're building towards probably one of the most vicious matches we're going to see all year. And there's not a whole lot that you can do because you got to keep these guys healthy going into the match. You know, so all the previews, you know, they kind of went in overdrive later on in one of the shows later, but you can't show your whole hand on the fourth show before the big dog cage match. So, you know, we're getting these two preview tags, and they're not much, but you're seeing guys like Finlay lose more and more because they're in a position of vulnerability. And it's the first time in a while that, you know, I think Finlay's lost 4 times, taken 4 pinfalls in like the last month.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like somebody who's about done being a full-time heel. Gabe Kidd is becoming my favorite wrestler in New Japan, according to Fernando Zayas. So yeah, getting over with him.
You are not alone, my friend. He is the standard bearer for many of a guy that they can identify as a gateway wrestler into the promotion.
Up next, we had Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi against Taichi and Tomohiro Ishii, and this match was great.
It was awesome.
Naito was motivated. It was not T-shirt Naito, no T-shirt. Oh. It was his best match in a very long time. This was excellent all around. It felt like a title match, the way they were working it.
He wanted to make these guys look good on the way out.
Ishii and Taichi melded as a team beautifully. I want to see more of it, and it looks like we're going to. Yes. Hiromu and Ishii were also clicking nicely against one another. I would like to see that singles match as well. They're clicking. Taichi ended up pinning Naito with the Black Mephisto to win. And all around, before we get to what happened afterwards, just nothing but praise for all four of these guys. This match felt great. It's sad that Naito's leaving the company for a lot of reasons, but one of it is this was smooth as silk. I love this match.
I think there are people that Naito truly cares about and is invested in, like helping on the way out. And, Taichi has not been the most successful wrestler in the last 2 years inside the promotion. So pretty noteworthy that Naito is giving him, a pretty tremendous rub. Like on the way out, he's the guy that like they're kind of eyeballing him and Ishii. This old guard, in New Japan, you got a handful of guys. You got Evil, you've got Sanada, you've got Ishii and Taichi. They're going to be around next year. You're not going to have Tanahashi. You're going to have a few of these other guys. They really need to be positioned strong so that there are mountains to overcome for these younger guys. Yeah. It's like they have to have strong, like old guard, and having Taichi and Tomohiro Ishii, who, have not been like, neither of these guys were in the G1 last year. They were out. They were used as fodder to put over these young guys. Now they're back. They're healthy and they're the veterans in the promotion, and their role is going to be pretty valuable as being the last of a generation to really make this next generation. And so good for them.
They were not done for the night either. Jeremy's asking, who do we like in the cage match? We're going to get to that when we preview Dontaku, definitely. So after that, we had the IWGP tag team titles, the vacant ones, reestablished. So we had Callum Newman and Great O'Khan. Of course, Newman and Jeff Cobb held the belts, but they were stripped of the titles when Cobb left the company. So Newman teams up with O'Khan now, the TV champion. They face Bishamon, the world champion, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi. This was also a real good match, and it flowed nicely. Bishamon's just one of the smoothest teams out there. They can just do so much without talking, without calling things, without communicating, because they know each other so well. I thought Newman and O'Khan were good together here. Mm-hmm. Ended up being the Prince's Curse for the win, which was Newman pinning Yoshihashi. And it was, of course, good for Callum Newman to get the win here to build toward his title match at Dontaku as well. So once again, it is United Empire with the tag team titles. Great O'Khan, Callum Newman, and for a short time anyway, O'Khan was a double champion. After that match, Ishii and Taichi, feeling their Wheaties from that big match just a little bit before, challenged. And so good news, we'll be seeing more of Ishii and Taichi.
I kind of want them to just pivot the titles over to those guys and have them be that, but I kind of think that they're going to leave it on Newman and O'Khan for a little bit, just as, I don't know, so that United Empire doesn't get completely forgotten in the new regime. You mentioned that O'Khan loses the other title. It's fine. I kind of think Akira is a huge favorite to win Best of the Super Juniors.
He's up there.
There's a possibility of him as one of those guys that can do well in there. So
and we have the blocks now, so we can really look at that and see who we expect to come.
We got to get your thoughts on this before we go in Japan and check that out. But I thought this match kind of got upstaged by the one beforehand, and that's no fault of anybody, because when you have the talent in the one before and the one there, they have a little bit of a challenge, a hurdle to overcome, and it was good. It wasn't as good as the one before. I think Callum Newman needed a title win before his IWGP tag team, because the amount of people that are really thinking that he's going to win this one is it's not a lot.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Now, they did appear in Yamaguchi on Sunday. That's the next day there. And that show's a snoozer for the most part. It drew about 1,100 people, which was 100 more than about the same time last year. So that's 10% up. That's not too bad. But it wasn't a great show. They barely got off the bus for some of those. But there was an IWGP title change on Sunday that had nothing to do with anything happening in Yamaguchi. That same day,
that show that you're talking about, just over an hour of in-ring time for the entire show.
Boy, yeah, they felt like they were everybody was taking the day off. However, that day in Yokohama, something very special happened, and more than one thing, but this event, All-Star Dream Queendom, Stardom's show at the Yokohama Arena. I am going to talk about this for a few minutes because it is consequential, certainly, to Bushi Road as a whole and the IWGP. This was an incredibly emotional show. It was long. It was 5.5 hours, but man, the quality of this, the wrestling all through the show. Rana Yagami and Hina kicked off the main show with a terrific Future of Stardom match. And it was almost all great from there. There was one match where Rina from the Hate faction took on Hata from, she's 58. She's one of the original All Japan, or not original All Japan women. She's one of the 1990s All Japan women's stars. And that was just kind of a Future versus old guard type of match that Rina put over 58-year-old Hata in that one. That one was a struggle, but I don't think Rina is a hell of a talent. There's not a whole lot more could be done, but there it was. After that, the rest of this show was utterly brilliant. One of the best shows I have seen in many years. The tag match with FWC versus Wing Gory absolutely delivered, which was, again, a match between the team I think is the best in the world, Koguma and Hazuki. I think that's the best tag team on earth. Putting over their younger sisters from the Stars faction, Wing Gory, Hanan, and Saya Ida. And terrific bout there. Then it went into Mayu Iwatani and Shuri for the IWGP Women's title. We also saw earlier a terrific grudge match, double juice between Suzu Suzuki and Mei Sarah. That was fabulous. You got a little of everything on this show. A really good kind of a no DQ brawl there. Mayu versus Shuri. Jeremy's asking, can you watch it on New Japan World? No, it's a pay-per-view on Stage Crowd. It will show
that
up.
IWGP match might show up on the New Japan.
That one might, maybe in the future. Right now, it's still in the pay-per-view window, so that's not out for anybody else. But it'll be on, the whole show will be on Stardom World once that pay-per-view window closes, which I think in a week or so. And it's worth the $10 for the month just to watch this show. To get this show for $10, best bargain you're going to get all year. Mayu and Shuri. Mayu was very emotional before the match. As they were doing the introductions, you could see her lip quivering. She even had a moment with the referee as she handed him the IWGP Women's title. The two of them, who have been in the ring together a lot, shared a few words that were not mic'd, but we don't know. But it was clear that she was really trying hard to hold it together. She put over Shuri, kicked out of Mayu's finishers. Mayu ended up shaking her hand, wishing her well, saying to carry IWGP forward. And that was the end of Mayu Iwatani in Stardom for right now, which seems mind-blowing. Very, very few wrestlers are as identified with a single promotion as Mayu Iwatani is with Stardom. Her very first match was Stardom's very first show. Her career has been intertwined with it. She is indeed the icon. She may well end up being the greatest female wrestler of all time. A lot of people that I respect feel she already is. I'm still in the camp of Manami Toyota, but man, it's getting closer. And she left the company after that. And today, this morning, there was a press conference in Japan where she was introduced as the newest member of the Marigold roster. There were some reports that she was going to WWE, which, please. She will be.
That was Dave saying, she might go to WWE now. And everyone's like, he's reported she's going to WWE. It's like, yeah, I forgot to think about I forgot about Marigold. Like, it happened, guys.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no. I mean, this was a plan from the second they fired Rossi Ogawa.
She's going right across the street and hanging out with Rossi.
She will be the X in the match against Nanaya Takahashi on May 4th there in the same day as Dontaku. They'll be having a show at Korakuen Hall, and that will be her debut for Marigold. So that gives the Marigold promotion some much needed depth. So yeah, May 4th, it'll be on Stardom World is when May 4th, it appears on Stardom World, according to Colin. That's when you can watch the Yokohama show. Okay, if that's true.
Looking out, Colin.
Okay. Azumi and Starlight Kid had a match for the white belt that elevated their rivalry from mid-card high-speed titles to the white belt level. Talking about something instead of just being a great match in the middle of a show underneath the top stuff, they're the top stuff now. Both of them started wrestling when they were 11 and 12 years old. That's not an exaggeration. That's literal. And are now 10 and 11-year veterans at the ages of 23 and 22. Saya Kamitani and Tam Nakano had an amazing, deep, dramatic, emotional battle that ended with Kamitani finishing off Tam with her own move. So the whole thing was so dramatic, Jeremy. It reminded me of the end of an anime series, and I'll get to why here.
I know
Saya beat her with her own stuff.
Just the epic wrap-up, the finale.
Tam died at the hands of a monster she helped to create. And it was, the black of the hate group. They all wear black. Tam wears white. Mm-hmm. The back and forth there the contrast was obvious. The match was fantastic. Saya was having emotional breakdowns during the match right there. And afterwards, some of the dialogue between the two translated as Saya saying to her, "It was only after I took everything from you that I realized I love you." And then at the end, something I haven't seen in wrestling before. I've been watching this stuff for 40 some years. No music, no big triumphant anything really. Saya put her rival's arm or her arm around her idol and helped her up the aisle. They walked up with absolutely zero music, absolute silence, stopped at the top of the ramp, turned around, sat down, exhausted, leaning against each other because they had beaten each other so badly. They had fired feathers up in the air to kind of simulate, I would imagine, either burning embers or snow coming down, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. A little atmospheric. And again, in just silence, they leaned on each other, just holding each other up, and then it just faded to black. They just turned out all the lights in the arena slowly. Little pause for a few seconds. When they came up, they were gone. It was very, very Tam.
The year so far?
It was very Tam. Tam always did tragedy better than anyone. This isn't show of the year, Jeremy. This is a show of the 2020s so far.
Wow, it's the show of the decade.
So far. We're only in 2025. I can't think of a better one. It is an all-timer.
That kind of feels like you have to watch it no matter what. If you like pro wrestling, you just have to.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And then Colin mentions this. Walker stayed silent during the entire closing. So while it was silent in the arena,
Walker.
Yes, and I got to say this. Sometimes I give Walker a hard time on this show. He was terrific on this one, almost by himself for 5.5 hours. They gave him Waka Tsukiyama, who speaks English and I believe was born in New York City, or at least lived there for a while, but she doesn't speak it quickly. And it's difficult, right, to translate. She was there to help translate, but she's not. She doesn't speak English to the point that she can just rattle it off and do color commentary. Mm-hmm. So she mostly has to think about everything she says. So that's very difficult. So Walker was basically flying solo through the vast majority of this show. 5.5 hour long show. He was prepared, helped by Scott Edwards, by the way, from Fight Game Media. And good job. Just good job. And Jeremy says, I'm brand new to Stardom. Please help. Get Stardom World. It's like I said, for $10, watch the Yokohama show. And then you can pick and choose other big events, and you'll see what we're talking about with just how good Stardom is. Here's a few more final thoughts.
Jeremy, I will say, is that you now have a window for a lot of people. You can argue that this is the end of an era for Stardom. And so you can start at a beginning point, and this can be an end point for a lot of people because of Mayu Iwatani leaving, because of Tam Nakano, because it's a chapter break. So mark this date and time, like Steven is saying, and then start at a point in the past and just dig through those big shows, and you'll find a lore in them that is not really matched by current wrestling promotions in the world.
Yeah, and what you're going to see going forward is a new beginning also, because
right.
With Nakano, with Mayu, they fired Tekla, who's leaving the company. She was fired because she attacked Toru Okada, the president of the company, whipped him with a belt, all that kind of stuff. But here's the key. They drew 7,500 to the Yokohama Arena right there. That's the biggest Joshi crowd in a very long time.
Seems like
it's the biggest non-New Japan crowd as well in a very long time, with the exception of Kaiji Muto's retirement show for Noah.
They draw like 300 for a house show, right?
It's growing. It's getting bigger now.
Okay. But that was like they were 300 to 500 for just like day shows, like.
Yeah, I mean, but it's getting bigger.
Like 7,500 for a Stardom like big show is not normal. Like,
no. This is the biggest women's wrestling crowd in well over 20 years or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
I have that in front. Yeah,
like we really need to underscore why and how big this was.
And so Hina Arena, who lost, but she was featured. Starlight Kid, Azumi, Sayaka Karara, Saya Kamitani. The main events of Stardom are going to look very different and a lot younger moving forward. And it's a very, very bright future. They have tremendous depth and talent. And now we're going to see some of those people rise to the top. So this show just wasn't a good show. It wasn't just a great show. This was an artistic achievement in the art form of pro wrestling. I can't say
achievement.
Yeah, I know that sounds like hyperbole, but I haven't seen anything like that ending in my life.
Honestly, Steven, if they still did DVDs of shows,
no,
an artistic achievement, Stephen Conway.
Go see this thing. Just go see the show and tell me I'm wrong.
I will watch it. You know, it's like gonna have to figure out the time and place in order to make that happen. But you know, this is one of those that it sounds like you should if you like Puro and Joshi. You kind of owe it to yourself to watch it.
Just enjoy emotional storytelling in wrestling. It's brilliant. They just did.
Is it really going to resonate with people who are going into it cold?
I think so. I think the video package is going to do enough. They're in Japanese, granted, but I think they do enough. And Walker's there to help you as well. Like I said, Scott Edwards is one of the experts on women's wrestling as a whole. Is the guy that prepped him for it. So
the way I put it is there are a number of people that'll check in on New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom, and like it's that big show. And even then, there are people that'll watch it and watch the matches that they're in for, and they bounce off the stuff that if you're invested in it, hits very, very differently. And so I was just trying to make sure when you're talking about it as like the show of the decade, that kind of thing. Have they done the work within the show to make you feel like you understand just how heavy and important these moments are?
Yeah, I think they did a good job of conveying all that. And plus, just the wrestling as a whole was fantastic. Even if you don't understand the storyline, it's just great wrestling. All right. There we go with that. So we do have...
he's in No Kuni.
Yeah, he's in No Kuni. So that's in Saga. So we will move on now from that. And like I said, Shuri, by the way, the new IWGP Women's Champion. So she is an IWGP champion now. Shuri, who is a fantastic wrestler, and maybe not one of the younger guard. She's not. She's a little bit older, but she is a wonderful talent and an excellent representative of the IWGP brand. So this is all good news. So we're going to be seeing more of her in the future.
Nice.
Heizen no Kuni. So this is in Saga at the Saga Arena. It's the first time there at the Saga Arena, which made Naito very happy because Naito and I have a couple of things in common. We're both baseball nuts. But the other thing is we're venue geeks. And so Tetsuya Naito was excited that in his run-up to his final match at New Japan, he was going to be working in a new building. So the Saga Arena, first time there for New Japan. So this one was a pretty good show, Heizen no Kuni. Now, the first half of it, I would say, preview-ish, a lot of house show type of stuff. So we're not going to go over match by match by match, but it finished strong. It again finished with the junior titles on the line and also a TV title match. And it really had
Yasuda's ass in the beginning.
Yeah, and again, Masatori Yasuda, this is his chance to get his singles match with Tanahashi. Yasuda isn't allowed to do a whole lot yet. He's had all those stops and starts, so his moveset isn't particularly big. This is basically a 7-minute thing, but Yasuda can say everybody the rest of his life, I wrestled Hiroshi Tanahashi, and that's going to be something he can hang his hat on there. So, yeah.
Other than that, yeah. You want to just get to the top 3 matches on this one?
Only other thing I want to mention, during a 10-man tag between the War Dogs and House of Torture, went to a no contest. They brawled all over the building. They did that really well, by the way. Some of these 6-on-6 brawls that House of Torture and Bullet Club have been doing, War Dogs have been doing, have been good. They've done a nice job of kind of spreading out all over the building, and people seem to be enjoying them.
Was this the one where the audience didn't seem to understand that you needed to move?
There were a couple of those in there. After the match, Evil and Finlay exchanged promos. Evil suggested a loser leaves Bullet Club stipulation to the cage match. Yeah, you don't do that unless you have a plan, do you, Jeremy? And so there, like I said, there were just a bunch of previews the rest of the way until we got to the NJPW World Television Title match, and that was Phantasmo and Great Okan. Of course, Okan beating Phantasmo for that title recently. El Phantasmo looked like he was going to lose after he took an eliminator, but he just barely got his foot on the ropes. That was a nice near fall. Later on, Okan took a DDT on the floor onto some chairs, and that seemed to doom the big guy. After that, ELP hit a series of super kicks, CR2, Thunder Kiss 86 to win. And indeed, he recaptured the television title. And Jeremy, I think that this might be a little bit of a reconfiguration of something they had in mind,
brother.
Because it seems like Okan was moved into the tag team role with Newman because Cobb's departure was moved up, and so in that case they took the TV title off of him and just said, well, they had taken the TV title off of him. Sure. Then all of a sudden he goes into the or put it on.
Musical chairs with these belts. They don't want Khan to have two belts, but they had to get one on and one off of him in a pretty inelegant fashion.
They wanted to replace Cobb and do what they were going to do and help build up Newman and everything. And then all of a sudden they have this extra belt laying around. Like, well, crap, we didn't know that O'Connor was going to be needed for this. So put it back on Phantasmo. Phantasmo's a good television champion. I have no problem with this as a fix.
At what point are we getting Great O'Connor as an IWGP title contender?
And afterwards, And then afterwards, El Phantasmo challenged Konnosuke Takeshita for a TV title match at Dontaku. Now, ELP already has a match against Takeshita lined up for the Never Openweight title at Resurgence. So what he's saying is, I'll put my belt on the line at Dontaku. You put yours up at Resurgence. Maybe one of us comes out with both of them. I got no problem with that. The more I see El Phantasmo versus Takeshita, I'm in. That's a terrific match. So
we're getting a time limit draw.
Well, we'll get to that when we get to the preview. They could go a couple of different ways with it, but I don't think either one.
No, we're getting a time limit draw.
You could have ELP beat him in Dontaku. You could. I know. I still think a draw is probably the most likely, but I think the draw is the most likely. But you can make an argument. After that,
you can make any argument for Takeshita losing to anybody in New Japan right now.
Oh, sure he could. I mean, he's going to. He's going to be in
Eventually,
G1.
But right now,
he's not going to win G1.
I would not have him lose to anyone right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team match. Master Wato and Yo against the Ichiban Sweet Boys, Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles. Now, I mentioned earlier, I thought that Wing Gory and FWC were two of the best teams in the world. And I think that Fujita and Eagles are right up there with them. I think this is one of the premier teams. This match was terrific. I thought this was very good. Yo was fabulous in this match in particular. He worked very hard. I'm in the tank for Wato. I love the dude. Nice pace and smooth. Eagles sold a double super kick when he jumped off the turnbuckle that looked tremendous. Kick by Wato to the back and an Ushigoroshi from Yo. That move is called the Falcon Blow. That was the finisher. New junior heavyweight tag team champions. These titles bounce around. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean they're done with Fujita and Eagles. And I like this. It helps Yo and Wato. It does help them. They're champions now. It also frees up Fujita and Eagles to be major factors in Best of Super Juniors. Yep. You can win Super Juniors as a tag champ, but this increases the odds that they'll be factors all the way into the end.
People rule out the tag division people in Best of the Super Juniors, especially if you have the title. It's like you have the Jet Setters in there. You got Master Water and Yo. You got Eagles and Fujita. You got a bunch of these tag teams in there. And in your mind, you kind of like, well, they're already in the tag team division. Why would they be moved over to the singles division and do that? Now that Fujita and Eagles are removed from the tag titles for now, all of a sudden you kind of look at Fujita like, wonder exactly how far you're going to be going in this thing. Robbie Eagles, you're like, you guys are both exceptionally talented wrestlers. And in post-block play, it'd be very, very fantastic to see what you can do cutting loose. So let's circle back around to that one in a couple of weeks.
Jeremy mentions sometimes the quality of NJPW compared to everything else blows me away. When it's clicking, this is still a really good company, and this is a match where things were clicking. And I'm also watching the Champion Carnival. I'm watching All Japan TV right now too. Their singles tournament, their G1, the Champion Carnival, and it does bring home because there are talented guys over there. I think Jun Saito is the Triple Crown champion. He's charismatic, a little rough around the edges. They have Davey Boy Smith Jr., who's really good. His body is starting to get a little stiff on him. He's getting a little older and all that, but still can work well. Kento Miyahara is fantastic. I think he's one of the best out there. But they just don't have the depth that New Japan does. And which is why I get frustrated sometimes when New Japan goes lazy at some of these house shows, just because there are so many great wrestlers, and sometimes they just choose not to wrestle well. When there are other companies where you just see, this is all these guys have. This is the best they can do, and it's not on that level. You wish the New Japan would kind of assert that a little bit more to me. So that's why I get upset with the laziness that we see in New Japan, because I know what they can do, and I see what they can do compared to Noah. Noah can be difficult to watch sometimes. A lot of old guys in Noah that just don't work as well as they used to. We've seen that with Naito. Naito has not been a good wrestler over the last year. Tanahashi's knees don't let him do what he used to do, but there's those flashes. And then you get stuff like what we've seen from the junior heavyweight division, Fujita and Eagles, their last two matches, the Ishimori Robbie X match, this match, fantastic stuff. And so, yeah, it is interesting to see when New Japan turns on the Jets, there's not a whole lot that can touch them. So I know you can't turn on the Jets full blast every single night. But when I see a match like we saw on Sunday, or a show like we saw on Sunday where these guys barely even got off the bus, I roll my eyes a little bit because, at least show the fans something to bring them back. So I guess that's where
congrats on making your dates, but not really showing up for them.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, this was an example. Nobody was lazy in this one. This match was fantastic. So there you go. Any other thoughts for you, Jeremy, before we move on to the singles?
No, I just, again, really want to highlight what a spotlight the junior heavyweight division has been for New Japan in 2025. And that has been despite the guy holding the title going into the year has been removed from the picture completely. And I miss him so much right now. I miss Doki a lot.
Yeah. And we talked about how Desperado was sort of the MVP of New Japan in the first half of 2024 when there was turmoil, when all these guys,
they're in the load again this year, man.
Well, when it was the Matt Riddle and Nick Nemeth and that whole thing with Tama Tonga leaving and blah, 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 it was a mess. And Desperado kind of held things together for the first half of the year and then put Doki over after Super Juniors. And he is once again main eventing Heisen no Kuni, and they seem to be more comfortable with Desperado in main events than they even were with Hiromu.
Right.
And Desperado does seem to have a hold on the fans. He seems to have a connection with the fans that really resonates. He plays the reluctant babyface well. It's like, I don't want to be in on all this.
He plays the Desperado.
Yeah. And so but the fans kind of react to that. Like he's almost shy about certain things, but then does these death matches and he steps up when they need him to. And the company seems comfortable putting him in a spot where he can draw, and he does. The tickets do go well. And he certainly puts on great performances, but we've heard people say, gee, I wish the junior heavyweight title match deserves a spot on the big show. I understand that argument. I don't disagree, especially at places like Dominion and in the Tokyo Dome and all that. But I think it is a compliment to Desperado that his match
he can
headline
an entire show.
Yeah, instead of being fourth or fifth from the top on Dontaku here, he's he's headlining against Templario.
We'd
not
be talking
even
about 3 prelim shows and one really good show in Redzone if they weren't doing this.
Yeah,
you know, like we'd have 2 more shows, like the one before and the one after. That it's just kind of like, okay, this is cute.
Well, he and Templario went 20 minutes. It just went barely over 20 minutes right here. It was
a gem, though.
It was an excellent match. And Templario worked Desperado's arm an awful lot during this thing, which was interesting to me, Jeremy, because if you watched Lucha Libre, or at least the CMLL stuff, and especially the Friday night CMLL shows, which are the big ones that are attended by thousands upon thousands every week, working one body part like that is not part of that style. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of tumbling, a lot of dives, a lot of ooh and ah. It's very, very well worked. It's just a different style. But here, Templario worked an arm in more of the Japanese and American style of picking a body part and taking it apart. It's not something that's normally a part of the big Lucha Libre shows that he usually does. So Templario was stepping out of his box a little bit and doing something a little different. He still did his jumps and he still did his dives, but it just shows what a good worker Templario is, that he can shift into that style so easily.
Incredibly versatile. He played subtle heel, but it was only in chase of the belt. When the match was over, he was like, "Yeah, we're cool, bro. We're like you and me. Like, let's do that again sometime." And that's how Desperado's approached all of his matches too. Like afterwards, like there's no hard feelings. It's like we're all just going after this belt, bro. We're good.
Yeah, it was nicely done. And then Templario, like I said, he took a couple of Pinche Locos to beat him, but Desperado did get the win after some really good selling in the match. Well wrestled.
Who was the better man? But yeah, the junior heavyweight division, these matches are fantastic. Desperado is doing a lot of heavy lifting. And when Templario got announced as an opponent for him, you're like, yes, please, thank you, let's do this.
And Desperado is up to V5. So, having a nice reign there. So, on Wednesday, they were in Kumamoto in front of another 1,100 fans. Last year, it was just over 1,000. So again, about a little less than a 10% increase over last year. That's good. They did draw, and this is a house show that there wasn't anything to speak of on it, but except they announced the blocks for Super Juniors, which we will get to later. They did draw over 2,000 for the World Tag League Finals in that building. That was when Hiromu and Naito won the tournament. So Tag League Finals, they drew over 2,000. But apples to apples, Road to Dontaku versus Road to Dontaku, up a little bit under 10%. So again, we're not turning people away at the door, but a little bit of an improvement in ticket sales.
Not much to add to this one. I do have before we get to the previews and the best of the Super Junior, Jeremy Orr did have a question that I kind of wrote down, and I want to get back to you on this one. Has nothing to do with any of the shows. It has to do with you being a historian of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that is twofold. What are your favorite matches, Steven, of the last decade? What are your favorite rungs in the last decade in New Japan? And also, what are some of your favorite matches from the 70s and 80s in New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Let's go back here. In the past years, the past few years here in New Japan, I would say some of my favorite matches. Oh boy, that's really putting it on the spot. There are the Kenny Omega Kazuchika Okada stuff is an all-time rivalry. Go ahead and check that out.
I had the Jay White run is something that I really, really liked.
Yeah, if you want to watch something through your fingertips, watch any matchup between Kota Ibushi before his injury and Tetsuya Naito. If you're worried about guys killing themselves. I loved Hiromu Takahashi's original run with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title when he beat Kushida and then went on a tear. And anything with Hiromu versus Dragon Lee when Dragon Lee was coming over. Unfortunately, damn near killed Hiromu, but that was well worth it. So I loved Hiromu as the champion. When he was really motivated and still hungry, that was a special thing for me. Boy, what other great matches? There have been so many great ones, but Naito and Okada. You're seeing some of the stuff come up on NJPW World. Naito's best matches. A lot of those were pretty fantastic. I
thought the Shingo run from when he came in to when he was given the title was really, really strong. Like it was just kind of like a revelatory kind of era for him.
And the Will Ospreay match for the world title that was kind of taking place when the crowds were still limited. That match was brilliant. One of the best. And so, yeah, those are the runs I would talk. And then, of course, the classic one, which is the when Kazuchika Okada set the record for title matches. All of those title matches were fantastic. He was just he was on fire. He was on another level at that point.
Right, 70s and 80s.
70s. If you can find it, I think it's on Worlds. Stan Hansen and Andre the Giant, best Andre the Giant match of his entire career. Stan Hansen had not jumped to All Japan yet. Those were brilliant. And then anything with Toyono, I'm going to mess up his name, Toyonobori and Inoki from the 70s is pretty exciting. They went at each other pretty hard. It's worth taking a look at. In the 1980s, go find yourself some Riki Choshu, one of the original rebels in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he had some great matches against the more classic company Hantai style baby faces like Fujinami, like Kengo Kimura. All that stuff's great, but Choshu was a little rebellious, and that stuff's real good stuff. And of course, 1980s, Tiger Mask, the original. Satoru Sayama, his stuff with Dynamite Kid changed the landscape of pro wrestling. If you want to go into the 90s, I'll be as quick as I can about this. Some of the stuff with Jushin Thunder Liger, one of the all-time greats, in there with another one of the all-time greats, Black Tiger Eddie Guerrero. That stuff is ethereal and brilliant. 1996 was a great year also, where we got stuff with Keiji Muto and Masahiro Chono and Shinya Hashimoto. Those original Three Musketeers. Any combination of those can't go wrong.
All right. So if you guys got any more questions like that, hit up us. Join the Speaking Strong Style Facebook page. Ask us questions there. We'll post questions for us that if you don't make it to the live show, we'll hit you up from there and get questions answered. That kind of thing. But Steven, thank you for taking a moment out there and being a historian over at ringsidereplay.com and letting us know what you thought about that. So we got two avenues to go forward next. We can talk about the best of the Super Juniors, or we can preview Dontaku. What do you want to do first?
Let's preview Dontaku, and we'll wrap up with Super Juniors since we have a little bit of time after Dontaku to get to that. And Venkin just says, I see people talk about Grand Queendom. Good luck not being sad at the end. The whole show was emotional. There were tears at the end of at least 3 or 4 different matches right there, and legit. All right, Wrestling Dontaku. So we have 2 nights, May 3rd and May 4th. So that is Saturday and Sunday. And I am paying for Wi-Fi on the plane just so I can make sure I catch this one in the Marty Gold show. I have 13 hours to kill. It'll be fine. I'll get it in. But on May 3rd, the early matches on these cards feel a little bit like previews and post views, just because they've kind of stretched one super card into 2 nights, haven't they, Jeremy? Like there's so the first night, Katsuyura Murashima and Daiki Nagai again. We'll see if Nagai gets any closer in there. But for the most part, this is the senpai kohai thing a little bit. Murashima being a young lion a little bit longer, and Nagai not quite able to overcome him as of yet. Maybe there's a story in here. Really, Jeremy, it shows progression for Nagai if he even gets the draw out of this, right?
Yeah, no, any upward advancement is good for Nagai, and big shows kind of feel like that's an opportunity for that to happen. Yeah. You're not going to see it on a prelim show.
Right. Yeah. And then let's see, we have the next one will be, again, this is where we get into some of these preview and post views. So we have Wato and Yo, the new junior tag team champions, against the team they beat, Fujita and Eagles. Also joining Fujita and Eagles, Hartley Jackson and Ryohei Oiwa. And on the other side, Toru Yano and Bolton Oleg. So again, if Oleg is healthy, I'm sure he and Jackson will go at it. Oiwa is just kind of biding his time until the next thing comes along for him. Everybody, not everyone can shine at once. So Oiwa was kind of taking a backseat for the moment, and then that junior tag rivalry there. But that's mostly a post view kind of match. We've already seen the big one from this. Yeah,
we're gonna have a big meaty match with a couple of these guys in there, and you got those junior heavies in there that are still a little spicy with each other. Should be a little bit of action-packed match.
After that, another one of those. So we have Yuya Uemura, Taichi, Tomohiro Ishii, and Takamichi Noku taking on Tetsuya Naito, Tsuji, Hiromu and Bushi. And that is, again, a continuation of Naito's final road through the company. His last match, though, will be on night 2.
Do you think we've seen the last time LIJ wins a match for a couple weeks?
I don't know. This could be Taka Michinoku's in this. So,
It's possible.
Yeah, it is. But, yeah. After that, we have Bishamon. So you have the world champ Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, and Ryusuke Taguchi against Jacob Austin Young, Great-O-Khan, and Callum Newman. So once again, a little bit of a post view from the tag team title match, preview of the world title match the next night. I would recommend to New Japan having Callum Newman beat either Taguchi or Yoshihashi in this one, just to make sure we see his hand raised as many times as possible going into a match where he's an enormous underdog.
Yeah, I want him to see him look like he's a new man going into that IWGP title match.
Yeah, I think so. They have work to do to make him feel like a threat. Everyone knows he's talented. We all like him. But we also know that he's only here because Cobb left before he was originally intending to. And
he's doomed from the start.
It's a hard one.
This is just like, hey, I've been to the dance before kind of thing at this point.
After that, now we're getting into the meat of this show here. El Phantasmo, Konnosuke Takeshita, 15-minute time limit, critically enough, right, Jeremy, for the TV title. I made the point that if you really wanted to help that Resurgence show, which really isn't the priority of Bushiroad all the time, the Resurgence show is a Resurgence show, but their priority should be in Japan. You could have El Phantasmo kind of get a flash pin on Takeshita here. You have him squeak by, that type of thing, and just say, see, next time it's going to be for your never open weight title. You could do that. I do think that if I were a betting man, and I am, I would say the 15-minute draw feels like a smart move here. But you could do a flash pin, couldn't you?
You could. I don't know why you would.
The only reason would be to make El Phantasmo feel like more of a never open weight title threat.
And honestly, the ceiling for El Phantasmo in general feels like the never open weight title. But it feels like a down the line kind of thing. The smart play is just play with the draw, have them go 15 minutes where it basically feels like, let's run this back in a week and we're going to get a winner either way.
Or have it where Phantasmo is within a whisker of winning the title when the bell rings.
Yeah, like he's close to winning or whatever, but like there's no winner in this match. That to me just seems like the obvious play.
I said the TV title perfectly good for El Phantasmo right now. It's a good spot for him because he's the kind of guy that can have a very exciting match in 15 minutes. He can do a sprint match. He's a good choice.
They looked at the entire roster and said, hey, you're the guy to hold this title now that everything's changed. That's a vote of confidence for him. He doesn't need to win this match to keep that vote of confidence.
Correct. After that, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Zack Sabre Jr. We talked earlier about how Tanahashi feeling his oats a little bit after that Takeshita match that turned out well, and then he had a good match at Redzone, and now he's going to be wrestling Zack Sabre Jr. So Tanahashi on a bit of a roll. This is exactly the kind of guy who knows how to have a very, very good match with somebody who can't really run and jump maybe the way he used to. You don't have to when you wrestle Zack Sabre Jr. in that style. Perfect opponent for Tanahashi. I think he's going to shine.
This match is going to be great. This is going to be the last time that we see a series of matches between these two in which they've tended to always exceed expectations, dating all the way back to when I remember. I'm sure they had matches before it, but the one that they had in Madison Square Garden at the Supercard of Honor for the U.S. title at the time. Fantastic matches, man. I am curious to think, are you getting any sense that TMDK might be turning heel / frustrated with their recent failure / like if Blue War Dogs are turning babyface, does that predicate another faction going heel to like fill the void?
I don't know, just because there might be another heel faction coming out of the Uemura Shota Umino thing. So I don't know. Perhaps I think it would be a challenge for Zack to be a heel in New Japan again. I'm not saying impossible. Not saying impossible.
He was wrestling pretty heelish at some of those prelim tags.
He was, yeah. They might be feeling it out a little bit, but There are two guys in TMDK that the crowd really doesn't want to boo, and that's Zack and Fujita. So I think that would be a challenge, not impossible, but I still feel like there's a heel faction coming. That
there are other things in the air, 1,000%, and we'll get to that pretty quick.
All right.
Let's see what we got here. What else we got here?
Well, here we go. Let's just get right to it. So Shota Umino and Shingo Takagi. This feels like a Shota victory to me, but they could. Shota's interesting, though, in this way. The story is his lack of success and his frustration with said lack of success. So there's always that thing where you would think with anybody else, well, Shota's been beaten down. He's had his head shaved. Shingo has been bullying him through this whole tour. So Shota's going to win to overcome all that, except it's Shota. And part of the story is that he never quite comes through and he's getting more and more frustrated that he doesn't. It means that this is kind of 50-50. You can see Shingo beating him and Shota continuing down this path.
I don't know about that.
Or I'm still thinking I'm 60-40, maybe 65-35 that Shota wins this thing. And it's because of what's happening on night 2 that we'll get to when we get to it. I think Shota is going to get the victory here. I'm leaning towards Shota winning and then reappearing the next night in another way. But special singles match screams that the winner has something more to do over the course of the event. And boy, he would be at rock bottom if he lost again. So I don't know how many times you need to tell that story of failure. It feels like we've done that.
I don't even think it's that. Like,
okay,
you look at these two guys in the New Japan lore right now, and the amount of effort and care and attention that's being paid to Shota, his character, his direction, everything is a massive contrast to what they're doing with Shingo, which is the guy showing up and doing the match he's been told to do with LIJ. Like, he's an antagonist in this feud. Like, he's not coming into it with, I've got my own issues going into this. I'm just reacting to what this other guy is doing, and I'm playing the conflictory role. Like, when all is said and done, nothing changes with Shingo Takagi whether he wins or loses this match.
True.
When all is said and done with Shota, everything changes based off of whether he wins or loses this match in the perception of the audience and the promotion. I'm expecting Shota to kind of win this because the entirety of the LIJ direction right now feels like they're in for a massive amount of losses over the next couple of days, and an identity issue, regrouping. What are they doing? Like, if he wins this match, it kind of flies in the face of everything else going on.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
Yeah. Watch out for one other thing, by the way, in that match. Sure. Watch out for one other thing in the Shingo Takagi Shota match. If they have a moment of respect afterwards, really start listening for that rattlesnake sound. Really start listening for the rattlesnake sound if they have a moment of respect afterwards. We'll get to that again tomorrow. No. All right. After that, we have the dog pound cage match. Now, we have on one side the War Dogs, as we know them. So David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Drilla Maloney, Clark Connors, Taiji Ishimori, with Geto on the outside. House of Torture, Dick Togo on the outside, with Sanada, Sho, Kanemaru, Narita, and Evil. Loser is out of Bullet Club. Losing team, not just the person that takes the fall, whatever. Losing team out of Bullet Club. This screams House of Torture win. Just because a couple of reasons. And I'm here. This is what I'm smelling, Jeremy. First of all, it's just too easy to think that the War Dogs are just going to beat the shit out of these guys. The other part of it is, and this is one thing that jumped out at me. Night 2.
Yes.
Only 2 people are on the card.
Yes.
Only 2 guys are on this card.
Yep.
None of the rest of them are.
Nope.
And it is Geto and Taiji Ishimori, the only Japanese guy in the War Dogs. Keep in mind, at some point, Jake Lee is coming back. He was aligned with Sanada and was brought in by Geto. If there is a back to be stabbed it is the War Dogs here, and to make them just the foreign team faction. And then keep in mind, resurgence, this Bullet Club Civil War thing, right? If they get kicked out of Bullet Club, who are their next opponents? But War Dog Classic, the guys that made up Bullet Club 10 years ago. I mean, it's going to be the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks.
Oh, look, we're still in Bullet Club and you're not.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. So I smell a rat here. The only thing, Jeremy, and that pro wrestling has been way less logical than this over time, but over the last week, if Gedo and Ishimori are sleeper agents waiting to turn, then boy, they've taken a lot of ass beatings on the way. I like, couldn't they do this without putting, if you're Gedo, if you're doing this, approaching this as if it's a real thing, wouldn't Gedo just say, hey, can you not put me through a table maybe as I'm waiting to stab these guys in the back?
He has grounds for a grievance, Stephen.
Ishimori's been kicked in the crotch about 6 times in the last couple of weeks. So it strains credulity a little bit there that this would be a planned turn. But weirder and less logical things have happened in wrestling. So,
if there was a scenario where all of a sudden it was a 7-on-4 on the War Dog in the cage, where Ishimori and Gedo both came in there and helped House of Torture, and then there were other guys ready to receive them outside the ring afterwards, that'd make a lot of sense to me. Like, they don't even call them the Bullet Club War Dogs. They're just the War Dogs.
They're just the War Dogs, yeah.
Like, it's fine. It's better, frankly, to have branding for these guys that don't have anything to do with guns and bullets. Yep. Like, I would wear merchandise if it didn't have guns and bullets on it. Hot take, guys. I don't like wearing merchandise of weapons. and
I'd be happier wearing merchandise that Matt and Nick didn't get a cut of. So Venkin also mentions, Stephen, what's Connor's status on contract? There've been a lot of conjecture about that. I don't know when his contract is either up or wasn't up or whatever. There's all kinds of stories about him maybe going into AEW, but there seems to be a lot of stories about a lot of people coming to North America that aren't coming to North America. So we don't really know. I don't know what Connor's contract is.
He's probably on the year-to-year.
He's probably on the year-to-year, yeah. But I don't know when that year is up or anything like that. Just going on the tea leaves, it just doesn't feel like the War Dogs needs the Bullet Club label anymore. So that's, yeah.
So, one thing I want to revisit about this match before we get on to night 2. The Dog Pound Cage match last year was one of the most violent, vicious matches that you were going to see on New Japan in quite some time.
Without exaggeration,
people nearly died.
Henare almost died.
People nearly died. And I don't think we're going to get that level of viciousness in here.
This is not going to be that, and will not be that.
But do not mistake the insanity of Ren Narita, of Evil, of Gabe Kidd, of David Finlay, of Clark Connors. These guys are going to get wild, and they're going to hurt each other, and they're not going to be on the show the next night. No. And just be ready for things to go wildly out of control.
And keep in mind, they put in the right starting lineup here to get the best match possible out of this. Yujiro's on the outside. They didn't put him in the cage. They kept Gedo out because Gedo used to be a fantastic worker with Jado, but he's an older man now. He just can't do that anymore. And again, Jake Lee is well enough to do some movie work. Now that's doing movie work. You can shoot around a lot of things, but eventually we think he's going to come back. Might be here, might not be, but either way, there's shenanigans afoot, I predict here. So.
All right, let's check out night 2 for us.
Night 2, here we go. All right, so we have some wrestlers coming in from Kyushu Pro Wrestling, which is a smaller local promotion. Remember, they were doing this for a while where every big event had somebody from a local company on it, and we got away from that for a little while. A lot of Kyushu Pro presence on this card in 3 different matches, including later on the card, certainly in the first 2, but then later on. And this one is Jet Way and Hidemaru Sasaki from Kyushu Pro taking on Taguchi and Katsuya Murashima.
Should be a fun one. They are luckier than the two poor bastards in the next match.
Next one is Mentai Kid and Baton Burabura. I'm not familiar with him, but judging from the picture, we're in for a treat. Against Taiji Ishimori and Gedo in the I Smell a Rat match that revolving around last night. Like, why are these two the only ones that are
Those two
showing up
in a
next
faction that seem somewhat babyface don't seem like babyface in this matchup.
They really, really don't, do they?
Negative babyface charisma in that.
No, they definitely look like the heels here. All right.
What else we got? All right.
Yoshihashi and Master Wato. Against Great Okan and Jacob Austin Young. So that's the next one there. And again, we're talking about they've kind of taken one supercard and spread it out over 2 nights. So you get some mishmash matches like this each night.
Well, tell us about the Stardom match that we got next, buddy.
Yeah. All right. So we have a Stardom showcase. So we're going to be seeing some Stardom talent here and a lot of really excellent talent. So on one side here, you have Maika, the Empress, who is about to finishing out this tour and then is going to undergo elbow surgery and will be out for probably the rest of 2025. So she knows she's got to have surgery, but she's gutting through a few more dates because she wants to do this one for sure. Maika is teaming with Fukuoka Fukuoka Double Crazy, but FWC. If you're wondering, that acronym does not work. Don't worry about it too much. Don't think about it too hard. But it is Hazuki and Koguma, my money. That's the best tag team in the world, teaming with Maika. What do they all have in common? They're from different factions. They're all from Fukuoka. So this is a hometown match for Maika, Hazuki, and Koguma. On the other side, you have Yuna Mizumori, who is from, I believe, Yamamoto, which is also in the Kyushu province. So the same part of the country, although not specifically from Fukuoka proper. So she's in here. She is teaming with Starlight Kid and Azumi, who are simply just, they're both from Tokyo, but they're the ones I was talking about earlier, who are two of the best wrestlers they have. So we're going to see a terrific match between people that really know how to work together. And they have 4 of the women who have a bit of a local tie to this show. So just like we're getting some Kyushu Pro wrestlers in there, we're getting the Fukuoka crew in from Stardom for a showcase match, which is pretty cool, I think.
All right.
Venkin's asking, with Maika gone, what is this red belt scene? Well, it looks like the red belt is they're sending Sayaka Karara, one of the youngsters, against Saya Kamitani, but I think they have plenty of plans throughout the year for some of them, like Saori Anu, I would imagine Natsupoi and all that stepping up. But other people are stepping in. It's going to be a youth movement. Next up, El Phantasmo, Bolton Oleg. Or Oleg Bolton. We still don't really, we haven't decided on a name pattern for him.
Interchangeable for me. I respond to both.
Fair enough. Taking on Konnosuke Takeshita and Rocky Romero. So this is a post-view match, so to speak, of the TV title match. And of course, there's the underlying stuff with Rocky and ELP that Rocky basically turned on him, or at least broke up with him as a partner after the last show there in Chicago. So bringing in a little of the NJPW strong storyline into Dontaku.
So Rocky is now unaffiliated in New Japan, but will show up in New Japan events as part of the Callis family. Have we followed that, everybody? Okay, great.
There you go. Yeah. And it's okay. Thank you, Colin. Unimon is from Kumamoto, which is also in Kyushu. So I had the province correct, but Kumamoto. Thank you, Colin. I want to make sure I get that right. And I'll be honest here. Jeremy's asking a question. What do you guys think of the JB Bloodsport shows between Champion Carnival, Stardom, and New Japan? I'm behind on that one. I
tried to make the Bloodsport show in Las Vegas when I went. I had not really made a point of watching Bloodsport shows because I find them to be exhibition matches that don't really reflect what would actually be the wrestling match that these individuals would have if they were in a square circle with the ring ropes and all that stuff. It's fun to see them go at it with each other, but it's not a flavor of ice cream that I gravitate towards.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Now, this next one's interesting. So you have a 10-man tag. It's TMDK on one side, Zach, Oiwa, Robbie, Fujita, Hartley Jackson. On the other side, you have Hiroshi Tanahashi, Toru Yano, Yo, Ryota Chikuzen, and Tajiri. The Japanese buzzsaw, Tajiri from ECW and going all the way back.
What a graphic for him up there.
Yeah, boy, this is pretty cool. And for them to be him to be on the same side as Tanahashi, I mean, after all these years, who'd have thunk? I mean, this one I did not have on my radar, but seeing Tajiri in the New Japan ring,
we're getting a Tajiri Tanahashi match, aren't we?
Oh, I would love that if they did it. I think that would be cool. Tajiri. I was a nut for Tajiri when he was in ECW.
Japanese buzzsaw.
It was so much fun to watch.
There you go.
It's been a long time.
It'll be a fun match. Feels somewhat inconsequential, other than Tajiri.
Yeah. And Venkin just says AEW and WWE are busy trying to get Miyu now. Well, if you mean Mayu Iwatani, she's going to Marigold. Yeah, she might make some appearances. I mean, why not? Sometimes, I mean, Io Shirai came over to Io Sky came over to Marigold for a one-off, so it's possible you could.
I would at some point she ends up in WWE, but I think she's probably going to spend some time, enjoying Marigold before she's like, okay, what's next?
Oh, and he says Miyu Yamashita. Oh, yeah, you're right, Benkin. Yeah, they might Miyu Yamashita might absolutely end up over here. That's very possible.
Possible, right. Yeah. She was on Dynamite last night. Yeah,
and
good match.
Yeah. After that, we have Shota Umino, Tomohiro Ishii, Taka Michinoku, and Taichi against Shingo, Naito, Hiromu, and Bushi. Now, we mentioned that there could be something with Shota Umino coming. I don't think it's going to happen here at Dontaku. I don't think.
No.
Because this is all about Tetsuya Naito's final night with the company, and Bushi too, for that matter. Naito and Bushi's last night as New Japan contracted wrestlers. So that's probably what it's going to be all about. The only caveat, Jeremy, putting on the tinfoil hat, is
someone's done some packing.
If Shota Umino becomes ungovernable, if he says screw it all, I'm not the new leader of Hantai. Instead, I'm the new leader of LIJ. We'll see.
I'd like to see Yota Tsuji's head melt down on that one.
I know. See, that's what I'm talking about.
I think there's a real possibility to Shota sending Naito packing.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just like a little bit of a, wouldn't that be interesting fantasy booking right there? But this should be about this being Naito and Bushi's last thing. The only thing, to know that he has decided not, there's a difference in the psychology between a long buildup to somebody retiring with New Japan and somebody basically saying, I'm not re-signing with you, I'm leaving. That's a different little goodbye psychology sometimes. So, you could see him go out as being thrown out of the company rather than the big ceremonial thing, because I'm not saying there's bad blood, but it is, Jeremy, a different psychology when someone's saying, I'm going to go work for somebody else versus what Tam did or what Tanahashi did, saying that I'm done wrestling.
I'm not going to lie. I think Taka ends up losing this match, and then LIJ kind of does their one last fist bump in the ring.
That would be absolutely fine. Absolutely.
Probably, Naito's going to come back. He's going to do a few more matches here or there. They're going to pay him money for those freelance matches. This is not we're never doing business with each other. There's going to come a point where it's going to be great for both sides to come together for a program.
He's a guy that can move the needle for either Noah, All Japan, or certainly any independent promotion, if however you want to define independent promotion. But if he was brought in for a big show for Noah, if he were brought in for a big show at New Japan or All Japan when they go to Oda Ward Gym and have a few more seats to fill, he's a good guy to call. Could do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Bankin mentions, by the way, Meiko Satomura had her retirement for Sunday. What a week! Meiko Satomura, one of the greats too, retired this week with after appearing at the Stardom show in Yokohama. She retired with Sendai Girls, so that was a thing. And what did I see what Naito said about his contract, Jeremy? Well, I know that he said that he talked about how the number of dates and the money.
It's not about money, but it's about money, right?
Kind of.
About money and dates, but it's not about money. Okay. No, it's always about money. It's always about dates.
Yeah.
You guys couldn't come to an agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, Yuya Uemura and Yota Tsuji for the Global Championship. Yota Tsuji defending the title. The build up to this has been good. The action between the two of them has been good. New Japan wants this to be a generational rivalry. It seems like it's on its way to being so. And I'm excited about the match. It'll probably be terrific. I don't really care who wins because I feel like we're going to be watching these guys wrestle for the next 5-10 years. And I'm down.
I think these are the figureheads of the promotion going forward. I think Yuya wins this match, Stephen.
Yeah,
I think they get the global title off of Yota. I think that they elevate Yuya because they need to get him at that level sooner rather than later. And frankly speaking, if Yota Tsuji goes into the G1 with the title around his belt, it lessens his chances of winning the G1.
There you go. Yeah, and I mean, you could launch Tsuji toward the world title again, and
absolutely,
I don't think anyone would have a problem with it.
He is a top contender to win the G1, and in order to continue to being a top contender, he needs to get a title belt off of him because they'll think that the feud and programs are going to be about the title, and then he has to lose a title, lose a match, and then you have to heat him back up for a world title. No, you do all this stuff before the G1.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we do have Dominion, so it's not the.
But who would be? Who is viable after this for the global title that hasn't already had it that would benefit more than Yuya Uemura, or that would benefit the promotion more?
Maybe the guy who won the special singles match the night before, Shota Umino.
You think Shota Umino? You think they would put the title on him? It's possible.
Maybe, especially if he decides, that there's angles.
But the pool is small, right?
Angles to be made.
Shota,
yeah.
It's Yuya, it's Yota. It's those three guys should be holding this title right now.
If Shingo wins on Saturday, I feel like he's challenging somebody on Sunday.
Yeah, I could see Yuya and Shingo for the global title.
And then Venkin mentions Yota wins until they do Gabe Kidd again. Also a possibility.
You don't need that. You don't need the title for those two again. You can do it for the IWGP title. It's actually better that they don't have a title to fight over, in all honesty. Because when all is said and done, you have a better man, and then you can make it for a title after that.
All right. After that one, we're going to have Hiroki Goto against Callum Newman for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. This will be a good match, but I think it would be the astonishment of all astonishments if he doesn't get to V5 here by beating Newman. Again, this is a situation where this is supposed to be probably one of Cobb's farewell matches, if not his farewell match. Probably not. I think he was probably going to stick around a little bit longer, but we don't know. Bottom line, it's supposed to be Jeff Cobb. Now it's Callum Newman. Neither one of those two is going to take this title off of Goto. So
the whole idea was be a good match to make Goto look good. Now it's a Newman match to make Goto look good.
And it'll help Newman if he has a good match. So if Newman comes in here and has a good showing and it's a good match, he'll be fine.
They have confidence in Newman. They put him in matches with Ishii right when he got here back in December of 2023 for singles matches. They felt confident putting him in the G1. They put him in singles matches with Naito. This isn't a shock to put this guy here. He just doesn't have the star quality aura yet that people buy him as a world title contender.
But I think he might someday. I think he might absolutely someday. And then Jeremy's saying how
above average, but not amazing.
Perfectly said. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think it'll be a good match.
Yeah,
but probably not going to be it probably won't be match of the weekend. I think
above average, but not amazing. It's fine.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you're right. That's fine. All right, there you go. So that is our look here. So now the other announcement we have, that's our look at Dontaku, and we of course Jeremy will be back with a special guest filling in for me to discuss it next week and go over it match by match. And then we had the announcement of a couple of lineup changes and the block formations for the best of the Super Juniors. So let's go over that. I'm going to read this off for the people that are listening as a podcast, but A block, we now know will be Kushida, Master Wato, last year's winner. 2 years ago winner.
Yes.
Ninja Mac, Hiromu Takahashi has won this tournament a bunch of times. Kosei Fujita, Francesco Akira, Clark Connors, Robbie X. That's the change. Robbie X taking Bushi's spot essentially in the tournament. Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Dragon Dia. Now, to me, Jeremy, that block A comes down to two guys. To me, I think that Hiromu is going to be involved because it's Hiromu.
Okay,
but this feels like it'll probably be those two toward the end, with Fujita probably close to the top, because I think they want to have Fujita win a lot here, and maybe not win the block, but be involved until the last day. This feels like the time for Akira to me. I'm seeing Hiromu and Wato in the comments, though. Hiromu and Wato.
It could be. Yeah. According to the schedule, the finale is going to be the top 2 point scorers from A and B block. Will be held in June 1st, and then the top two will do battle in the finals after that. So you got 2 and 2 going into this, and then let's see. The last night we've got Akira. We got Akira and Kushida in the finals. You got Hiromu Taka, and that's the main event, by the way. Hiromu Takahashi and Robbie X. You got Wato and Kanemaru. You got Fujita and Clark Connors. You got Ninja Mac and Dragon Dia. I'm honestly going to go with Fujita and Akira as 2 first-time post-block entrants.
And I would have Wato up there as well, Venkin, except Wato just won the tag titles. And I think that I think that's their story for him, is that he and Yo are going to have their tag team title run for a little bit there.
I see Robbie X as a spoiler for Hiromu Takahashi this year.
I see what you mean. He could be the banana peel that he slips on before getting there.
1,000%.
All right, B block. Now, of course, we mentioned that there was a CMLL representative. Now we know that is indeed Titan, which we kind of suspected, but someone mentioned something, and I wish I could remember who mentioned it, but they had to wait until after the Desperado Templario match, because kayfabe-wise, if Templario had won, he's got to go in the tournament, because the junior heavyweight champion's always in the tournament. So you can't. They couldn't give that away, so to speak. They
also apparently did a tournament in CMLL to crown Teton for this spot. They did the work in the CMLL end to make it like this guy wasn't just there because he's an LIJ. He had to work for it.
Yeah. So anyway, B block is Teton, Kevin Knight. Good to have him. Yo, Ryusuke Taguchi, of course. El Desperado, our champion. Robbie Eagles, Taiji Ishimori, Sho, Nick Wayne, and Mao. So my thought on this is we're going to get into a couple of ifs. If Ishimori turns, then I think he's going to have a very big tournament. I think Desperado is the champion, so he's going to be involved, maybe even make the playoffs, but not win. Ishimori and Eagles feel like the two primary contenders besides Desperado here. I think it'll come down to those three. What's the last night of block action hint to us? Now, this is a hard block because you and Benkin mentions the same thing. I'm excited to see Nick Wayne against all these guys. I'm excited to see Kevin Knight against all these guys. I think Teton is a real contender. Mao is a really talented dude. There's exciting stuff over here, but the only person that you look at and just go, nah, no way, Sho, Taguchi, Nick Wayne, and probably just because he's not full-time, Kevin Knight. Any of these others you can make a case for.
So
did Jeremy freeze? He might have frozen up there. Jeremy will be back in a little bit. Jeremy Orr is asking, how far will Wayne get? 2 wins? I kind of feel the same way. I don't think he's going to have a very good win-loss record in this tournament. I think he could beat somebody like Taguchi. I think he could get an upset win over somebody that you wouldn't normally expect, like one of those little pin scrambles that end up in a flash. But I do think he's probably going to be losing to guys like Teton, probably losing to Desperado, Eagles, those people. I think that's probably going to be where Nick Wayne is. So
I don't know about that. I kind of think that the way that they've got those AEW guys in there, one of those guys might make it to the post block play.
If it is, I feel like it would be Knight.
It could be, but Nick Wayne got that belt. He got the Ring of Honor belt.
Venkin says he's going to pin Desperado. That would be interesting if they decided to go all the way with that and have him beat Desperado.
So
what's the last night of block play for B?
We have Kevin Knight and Ryusuke Taguchi.
Okay, so that's not going to. They're not going to. That's probably not going to be a factor then.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at there. You got Yo and Taiji Ishimori, which that says to me tag title feud.
Yeah, it sure does. Maybe not. Maybe Ishimori doesn't go all the way then.
El Desperado and Robbie Eagles. There have been a number of years where Robbie Eagles has been robbed by El Desperado and of other people.
That's unquestionably winner goes to the playoffs thing, at least. Yeah,
you could do that. And then you have Mao and Show, and then in the main event, and then you have Teton and Nick Wayne. I'm not going to lie. I think Nick Wayne has a real good shot of making it to the post block and getting eliminated.
That's interesting. Well, we'll see how that turns out. I mean, that would be a big boost for Wayne if he did.
He's exceptionally talented, and he's starting to look more and more like he has it in AEW. He's been given a little bit of opportunity to shine going into the best of the Super Juniors. And he's got a little bit of a storyline thing going on with Christian where it looks like the whole patriarchy thing is probably coming to an end with Nick becoming his own man, whether that's for good or for bad. So we should see
the quicker he gets away from that garbage, the better.
Hey, Mao's in the main event of that last night. I don't rule it out.
No, and Mao's really talented dude. Colin says he wants him to do bad. The
thing about the best of the Super Juniors this year, we look at it. There's no guy that's going to be made by winning best of the Super Juniors. It's going to be a fantastic set of matches, but no, we already have our mainstays. We got Desperado. We've got Hiromu, you've got Doki coming back. Unless they're absolutely pulling the trigger on Kosei Fujita at this best of the Super Juniors and just letting him go wild, I still think it's too early. So you're going to have a fantastic set of matches, a fantastic final, a fantastic contender for Desperado. He could win, they could lose, but then we're going right into the G1. So we have a whole lot of things going on, but it doesn't necessarily say that this is the time, this is the moment we're crowning a new guy in New Japan Junior Heavies because it's so rich in talent. Is it Akira's time? Is it Kosei Fujita's time? I don't know, but we both know that those guys are coming up. But is it going to be now, or is it going to be in 6 months, or is it going to be in a year from now?
I also have Venkin says Nick Wayne's going to pin Desperado. Watch me be right. All right, you heard it here first. You heard it here first. That'll happen from Venkin. So yeah, all right. Well, Best of Super Junior starts up pretty much right, very close to after Resurgence. We're going to get a Resurgence a week from tomorrow, and then the Super Juniors tour will kind of kick up. It'll be underway when I'm in Japan. So that second week that I'm there, it'll be rolling. So it does happen pretty quickly after Resurgence. It goes right in. So yeah. All right. So with that in mind, of course, Dontaku goes back 42 years. Just some quick things. I'm not a full history of Dontaku, but the first was in the Fukuoka Dome. Way back 1993, drew 55,000 people. And it was headlined by Antonio Inoki and Tatsumi Fujinami versus Junichiro Tenryu and Riki Choshu, which, if you know the history of All Japan and New Japan, because Choshu at one point jumped from New Japan to All Japan, then back. But Tenryu and Choshu feuded, a huge feud in All Japan Pro Wrestling, and that was kind of a Hell Freezes Over tag team. Was Choshu and Tenryu together there against the classic combination of Fujinami and Inoki, and it drew over 50,000 for the first 3 years. That's when all of Japanese wrestling was white hot in the early and mid 90s. Just could not miss. Both All Japan, New Japan, even some of the independents were doing great. But then the event didn't return until the year 2000, and then it was 25,000 people for a couple of years. Pretty good now, you would think. But then it returned again after a couple of years off in 2009, and then it was down to 5,500 and in the current building and all that stuff. And it's they began doing 2 per year in 2018, and did again in 2019. 2020 was a pandemic year, and 2021 Very limited attendance, only about 2,200, although that was a really good show. But again, that was when Japan still hadn't opened up fully. In 2022, they were feeling good about themselves, and they went back to the Fukuoka Dome, and they drew 8,000 for Okada versus Naito for the world title there, and then went back to the 2-night format in 2024. But it didn't draw very well last year. Nemeth versus Tanahashi for the global title did a pretty dismal 2,400. And it's a weird main event. Moxley versus Ren Narita for the world title on night 2 did 4,200. Hopefully this year will be a lot stronger.
I would hope so. Hey, everyone, if you want to interact with Speak of Strong Style in other places, join our Facebook page. Join the Discord by emailing gg@fightgamemedia.com if you want to do that. I don't have a whole lot of other things. You got anything for us, Steven?
I think that's about it, other than say I'm going to miss everybody. I'll be gone for a couple of weeks, and we'll have guests in, and I will be back 3 weeks from today, and I'll have plenty of tales to tell, I'm sure. I'm catching a couple of wrestling shows, so you can watch for me if you have Stardom World. I'll be in the 3rd row for that show at Cork and Hall on the 11th, and then for the Champion Carnival next Tuesday, I will be in the 1st row of the bleachers over there watching Champions Carnival for All Japan. So I'll catch a couple things, and then Grand
Maybe I'll have you buy me a luchador mask from there.
Yeah. Venkin's asking, do you ever think about all these draws like Naito, Tam, and Mayu leaving is going to affect ticket sales in the future? Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Sure will.
Absolutely.
Stardom
it's paid now, but you're going to lose people in the long term if you don't build new stars. And
Stardom has better depth, and I think that they positioned those people in Yokohama. By the way, those 7,500 people, 7,500 that showed up to Yokohama had to have left that arena just thinking that was worth every single penny. So I have a feeling that they're going to stay strong. But yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a dip. And in New Japan, the Road 2 shows, I think, are going to take a hit because that's really where Naito drew. There were times when he was in and out of the main event lineup and all that kind of stuff, and other people drew those, but he was a big deal on those Road 2 shows. Even if he was just in a trios match in the middle of it, just seeing Naito was a big deal for them. So I do think that there will be a bit of a hit. But this year, we've talked about it all year long. This year is all about getting things and people ready. And that's going to have to continue. And it's just it's more important now than ever. They have some younger talent, and they seem to be on the way toward pushing those guys. But 2025 was always going to be about rebuilding.
Here's the thing, Steven. We started this show in 2022, and we talked about the 3-year plan it was going to take to get these guys to the main event scene. Guess what? We're at the end of a 3-year plan, and we got guys ready at the cusp of the main event scene. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Colin's just mentioning is Utami is still the ace of Marigold. It's Mayu Iwatani now, all day long. It's Mayu Iwatani now. That's Utami's a terrific wrestler. Mayu's an icon. All right,
take us home, Steven.
All right. Well, I want to say thanks to everybody who watched us live, everybody who listened here. Really appreciate it. I'm going to miss you guys. And so with that in mind, don't forget Power Bombshells. We'll be back on Sunday. Dynamite Show, all of the stuff, the wrap, 5-Star Joshi Show. Fight Game Media has you covered. So with that in mind, for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong Style, and we will talk to you again real soon.